Hello everyone, I'm going to give you a short tutorial on Google Forms. You can use these for quizzes or you can use these for tests. It's a great way to go paperless, and it also automatically grades it, and that's a bonus for anybody. So if you go to Google and you're looking at your home screen, hopefully you've already logged into Google and your account's accessible. Go to the little dots that you've got, the little squares, and you're going to go click on your drive. After you've clicked on your drive, you've got some different options. Go to the new top left-hand corner, and when you click on that, this is where you're probably very familiar with doing your Google Docs and everything else. But if you go to more, you've got different options that you can do as well. So we're going to click on Google Forms, and it's pulling up a brand new Google form. Now I'm going to name this Practice. And if you notice, what I name it up here at the top, it's going to automatically go here or vice versa. So if I say that that is what I want to name it, it's going to save it, and there you go, that's the title of this. Now there are ways that you can change the aesthetics of it by clicking on the little color palette at the top of the screen. This is just fun stuff. It's not really going to help you with your questions any, but it sure does make it look pretty. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. The first thing you're going to want to make sure you do is that you're going to want to ask your students to enter their name. So the very first question is normally going to be, what is your name? Now, one way that you can do this is ask them to put their last name first and then their first name. By asking them to do this, it's automatically arranged in alphabetical order on your Google Sheet after these are graded. So it's very helpful. Now, one thing that this automatically did for me is when I started asking this question, it changed it to a short answer from a multiple choice question. So you have this little drop-down box over here where you have all your different options for how you want your question to be formatted, whether it's short answer, multiple choice, check boxes, all sorts of stuff. And you can even upload a file if you would like. Lots of options. Now, you want to make sure that this is a required question. So you're going to click required, and now they have to answer this question. So let's add another question, shall we? Over on the scroll bar to or this little bar to the right, there's a plus sign. You're going to click on the plus sign to add question. And we'll make this one an easy one. What color is the sky? So I want it to be a multiple choice question. So it's selected over here. And then option 1, blue. Another option would be green. And we'll just leave it there. Now I also want this to be a required question, so I'm going to have to click that little slide again, and you have to do that for each and every question. Sometimes if you forget, it'll show up on the form, so make sure you've clicked that. Now, if I'm asking for this to be counted for points, right now there's nowhere I can do that. So if I want to make questions worth a certain amount of points, I'm going to have to go into my settings. So I'm going to go to the top right, and there's a little cog up there, it says settings. Click on that, and you've got 3 different headings: general, presentation, and quizzes. Now under general, I've told you that the best thing you can do is go ahead and ask them to write down their name as the first question. If you forget to do that, you want to make sure that you at least collect the email addresses. Otherwise, you're going to be left with a lot of answered Google Forms, but you're going to have absolutely no clue who they belong to. That's kind of a problem. So make sure you collect their email addresses, and then if you go down a little further, you want to make sure that it's limited to 1 response. Now, if you're setting this up as a quiz, you want to make sure, or a test, you don't want them to be able to go back in and change their answers. So if you limit it to 1 response, you got 1 shot, and there you go. We're going to go now to the quizzes. And when you make this a quiz, This is the coolest thing. As soon as you make this a quiz, you can now assign a point value to each one of the questions. And I'll show you how to do that in just 1 second. So before I do that, I want to click Save. And now each one of my questions has the option for points. So let's click that. We're going to click back on this question. And now, instead of it just being nothing to it, you have answer key down here. And when I click on the answer key, it does a couple of different things. You can see that now, for each question, I can assign how many points. So let's say I want this to be worth 3 points. But which one's the correct answer? That's where you have to edit the question. So you edit the question, you choose the correct answer, and then when you do that, it doesn't want to answer it for me. Let's try it. Okay. Goodness heavens. Let's try it again. There we go. Okay. So once I have chosen the correct answer, they will get credit for choosing this answer. Now sometimes you might want to give them the opportunity, because there's been a lot of times students have come up to me and said, well, Miss Lack, this is actually, it could be either one of these. So let's say I have blue, green, and then pale blue. Now, it could be pale blue as well. So if I go to my answer key again, I can choose pale blue or blue. So that means that either one of these would be counted as the correct answer. And that's kind of a nice feature. If there's a question that you go back and you look at it and there is a possible second answer to it. Right, so my first question is just a short answer, fill in the blank, and then my second question is a multiple choice. Let's add another one. So I'm going to go back over here to the side, add the plus sign, and let's say we want to add a drop down. Now the drop down is a fun one for a couple of reasons. Let's see if I want to say which character is the protagonist of the story. Once again, I need to make it a required question. And then I'm going to go over here to my options. So we'll say Steve, Bob, and then Charlie? I don't know. Okay. So if these are the main characters, then the drop-down box is going to give you those options. Now, once again, I've got to go to the answer key. I've got to show which one it is. So we'll say Steve is the protagonist of the story, and I've got to set my point value. Now, this may be time-consuming on the front end. It's a lot of front-loading. It's a lot of planning. But oh my goodness, it makes your life so much easier. Okay. Now, if I wanted to go back later, I can always go back and edit the question. And that's the beauty of this, is that it's very fluid. And then we're going to add another question. But this time, I want them to view a picture. And let's say we're talking about setting, and I want them to identify the setting. I can say, what is the setting of the story? Make it a required question. And then I'm going to add some pictures. Now, you can do this a couple of ways. You can choose an image. I can go to my albums. I don't have any photos, so that might be difficult. If I upload, I can choose an image, and hopefully we have some things on here we can choose. What if we were to we're just going to take this one. I'm going to open it, and it's going to upload that image. So I can now make this, just say picture, and that image is now available as something that they can choose, or that they can, you can put up here, shuffle it around, and then they can answer questions based on this picture. So instead of what is the setting of the story, how could this picture relate to the story. There's a lot of things you can do with it that way. And I would make that a short answer question. Once again, it's required, and then I'm going to have to set the point value. Since this is more of a comprehension question, I might want it as 5 points instead of just the 3. You can add a title if you wanted to divide your form up into like a vocabulary section, comprehension, true, false, however you want to do that. And you can move those around. Like I said before, it's very fluid, and that's one of the beauties of it. If I don't like it, I can just get rid of it. All right. You can also add videos, which is really neat. If you want to do take a scene from a play, perhaps, and you wanted to add the YouTube video in, let's say To Kill a Mockingbird. All these videos are going to pull up from To Kill a Mockingbird, so I could use Crash Course, I could use the courtroom scene. There's all sorts of things that you can use. So we're just going to click this one just for the heck of it. We're going to select it, and it puts that video clip into your Google form. And so now you could say, watch the following clip and answer the questions. And that is so cool. It doesn't have point value because it's just a video, and now I can add my questions and say, after viewing the clip, how does Atticus question the jurors, the jury? So there's a lot of different ways that you can use this, and this is really neat when it comes to speaking and listening standards. You choose your options, you choose required, you go back in, you set the point value. Like I said, that's it. All right, so you've got all these questions that you've created, and we don't know if we're going to be done with it, but let's see what it looks like. So to preview this, you're going to go up to the top right hand corner, and there's this little eye up here. It says preview. Click on that, and it's going to allow you to see this form like your students would see it. And it's going to show you the order of everything. If you look over here on the side, this is something that's very helpful to make sure that you've given everything a point value and that it's been a required question. Now, you see the little asterisk right here? That lets you know that it's a required question. If it doesn't have that, then you've got to go back in and you've got to change those settings. So I've gotten my Google form, got everything ready, and now I want to figure out how I can share this with my class. Now, if we go to send, click on send, you've got different options. Now, most of the time what I like to do is I like to create a hyperlink and then insert it into Google Classroom as an assignment. So let's say that that's what I want to do. I can either email it out if I wanted to do that, or I can add it to the classroom, shorten the URL just because that's easier. I'm going to copy that URL. And now what I can do is I can go to my classes. I can click on that, and then I get to create an assignment. I'll say practice, and then the due date, I can set the due date for whatever I want it to be. And we can go ahead and insert that link. And then I can assign it. Now, one thing I can do is I can schedule it as an assignment. If I know that I have a class that's coming in at 12 o'clock that day, I can go ahead and change the time so that it's not even accessible until then. But the beauty of it is, remember I told you that this is a one-time only thing. So if they don't, if they go in and they try to take it, then that's going to be a little bit of a problem because they only get one chance to take this thing. So I schedule it, and there you go. It's done. Now, after they've taken these, and I want to look at the responses, you click on responses, and this is where all your information